Okay.
let's go for it. And
All right.
here we go. Three. Hey everybody, this is Roger Pugh with the band, the DNA Vibrators, and I am here with Jim Foerster. Jim, hey, say hi to everybody.
How you doing all?
All right.
Good to be on the YouTube.
Yeah, we're going to be on the internet. That's exciting. So we're going to. This is something I did several weeks back when DNA played with Nonagon, my buddy Tony's band from Chicago. And I thought, it would be really cool if we could sit down and talk a little bit and let the conversation wander wherever it's going to go. And I don't know if anybody else enjoyed it, but we had fun. And so that makes it worth trying again.
Oh yeah.
So Jim and I have known each other for a long, long time. And I was trying to put a number to it. And I'm trying to think. I think it was probably somewhere in the mid to late 80s. I'm going to guess like 87 or 88.
That
Might
sounds
have
about right.
might have been the first time that we crossed paths, and it was just one of those things like a group of people probably standing outside of Lost Cross in some cold November evening and just kind of saw each other. And then
Yeah.
it would be one of those things where, well, we'd see you again and then again and vice versa. But
Yes.
I don't know exactly when I was formally introduced, but I'm going to guess it was probably by Scott or Dave. That would be my guess. Do you
Most
remember that
likely.
by any chance?
No, I was trying to think about that, and most I remember is 611 days
Oh
when the
yeah,
Night Soul Coolies would play, and did sound there an awful lot, and
yeah,
that's when I really got to know you. I don't know before then when exactly it happened, and probably just like you said, outside some house party with bands playing, and drinking beers and start talking.
yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned 611. Boy, I haven't thought about that for a little while. But what a great little incubator for local bands and the people that traveled and came through and would make that little stop in Carbondale.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of grew everything up. So you would have everything from punk and hardcore to new wave bands to old country to just about anything you can think of would have been up
Yeah.
on that stage at some point. And it's just kind of a hallmark of what I think is the best part of Carbondale's musical scene has been that it was all welcome and everybody had a good time no matter who was doing what, really. So, and
Yeah,
I
it was
yeah,
a little too fast and wide open to last, of course, and
yeah,
there's
yeah,
nights when it was pay for your beer on the honor system, and
yeah,
but
yeah.
it sure was fun, and
I, tell me the first. So I remember that some of the first times that I played up there, and other places in town. Like literally, the first time that the Coolies played was at Alexander Cole's,
uh
and Mike Ring was running that show. I think me and Tony mentioned it in the last time that we spoke.
yes.
Uh, and it was memorable for me because it was such a terrible experience. But you know what? And whatever doesn't kill you makes you sadder, I guess. So
Yeah.
we survived. But I remember those events. But the times at 611 are really hard to beat, even the really hard times. And there were some tough times for the owners, and then tough
Yes.
times for some of the musicians that were there too. Everybody really kind of made it like their family place, and that's not a euphemism or metaphor. It really felt like family. There were strong bonds that were built there. Uh,
Yeah, and I think Alexander Coles was kind of like the underground starting to push up. I mean, there had been bands like Dave and the Happenings and Congo 64 before,
yeah, yeah,
but at 611, the whole underground scene, basement scene, just kind of came up above, and was
yeah,
now on the strip, and all
yeah.
those
That
bands
was.
are now playing in a venue, and
I don't think that had happened in Carbondale before. There had been every once in a while a band would percolate up, and you'd get a band like October's Child that kind
right.
of came up and then came out. And other bands like that too. I'm sure Robbie Stokes would have memories of like what was his band from years ago, Devil's Kitchen. I mean, he would have memories
Yes.
of that from just starting in somebody's backyard, and then you're at the club at one point. But this was a scene at that time when we were first both in it, where there were where like you said, it like the underground just kind of rose up into it, like
Yes.
everybody who was there otherwise would have been at a house party on Oakland or something in the basement,
Mhm.
but instead, or they'd be over at Voodoo or wherever, or Lost Cross. But instead, they could go literally right uptown, and there you were, right,
Yeah.
getting a beer and a slice of pizza. So that was pretty awesome. Tell me the first. So the roundabout way that I'm getting at was I remember the very first times that I played in Carbondale, and they
Okay.
were early on at that time. Um, when was the first time that you played, either as a solo act or in a group?
Um, Probably the first time was at as a group. Well, I was in a band with Chris Piper's probably slightly before your time. That was back in the Airways days. We had a three piece that we were trying to combine blues and punk rock together, and we never had a name. And we played a few times, and Chris split
Nice.
town unannounced, and so that would be about 1982 is probably the first time I actually played
I got you.
at a house party, and on the strip was probably Booby's Beer Garden on open mic night with our band 40 Watt Flood. We mostly an original band then, but that would be early 90s or mid 90s.
And
So
40,
there's
40 watt flood was an ongoing concern for several years, am I right?
it
Or is it
was, yes.
still? I mean, I don't know.
Not really. I mean, I still see the guys, and we've well, actually, we played Craig and Roberta's last Fourth of July party.
Yeah,
We were the very first band to play 20 years prior, and so I just thought guys want us again, and so we were one of three bands to play the last one, so we were kind of the first and the last of that, and I
that's
wouldn't blame us for that party being gone. But
wow. I did not realize that. That's pretty cool. It's funny you mentioned Airwaves because even though I was late to that party, I showed up in '84, so Airwaves was still there.
okay,
And that was like before 611. That was the place
yes,
where you'd see a hardcore or a punk show if you wanted it in like a
yes,
venue, right?
right, yeah,
And I saw several, and it was a fantastic place. It was exactly what you'd expect, right? For
yeah,
under the bar, uh, cheap liquor, tight space. You're glad the
yes.
lights were dim. That was just and loud as hell. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
was that place loud?
And
I
they
do
brought in
remember that.
Jason the Scorchers and the Violent Femmes and a
Yeah.
reggae band from Jamaica called the Bingy Brothers, and so they bring in big acts every once in a while.
Yeah, I think I remember Gang of Four played there like early,
Okay,
like in that first year that I was down in school. So I was like,
okay, yeah,
and I was like, oh wow, this is like this has big time acts come through here. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And I got a little bit of funny story.
Yeah,
Uh, I think the band was Your Mother's Lover, and I was
yeah.
talking with Dave and Scott one night, and years later, and like, there's man, I saw this band that kept changing singers every song, and they had this really long haired guitar player wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt playing through a PA, and Dave just started laughing. He's like, "Well, that was me," and that was long before I knew him. But I
You know,
always
it's
see him in
funny.
action. And,
That PA is still in his garage.
I know. I've actually
That's
worked on the head before, and
yeah, that's great, man. That's great. Um, yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Those little circles kind of connect everybody in the scene eventually. So,
yeah,
uh, so the reason why we're talking to each other tonight, or one of the reasons, not not the only reason. It's fun just to sit down and talk, but is because we have a show coming up. We have a show
yeah, we
coming up
do.
on November 18th. That is Friday, November 18th, at the Hangar 9 in Carbondale. So we're going to be playing at one of the respectable joints in town, and and let's see. I think it's going to be yourself and Children of the Rat Temple, which I've had the pleasure of seeing a couple of times, and I really dig their stuff. And DNA Vibrators is playing. So
Yeah,
so it's going to be a pretty eclectic night with everything running the gamut from kind of country blues to kind of more like spacey electronica to kind of like nerdy college guitar driven rock. So I think that
yeah,
that covers all three of us fairly well.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
hey, let's dive right into it if you don't mind.
No,
The what I'd like to do, if I can make this work, I think I can. Uh, I'd like to head over to your Bandcamp page, and I'm going to
Okay.
share the screen with anybody who will be watching. And you should be able to see it too when I do the screen share. And
Okay.
then maybe I know which one I want to choose, but it may be different than what you want to choose. So I might ask
Okay.
you what you think, or maybe you could quiz me to see which one you think I'm going to go for. So
Well,
let me.
if we have time for a couple, how about if I choose one, you can choose the one you like. If it's not
Ah,
too long.
okay. We can do that.
All
So
right.
I'm getting everything configured right now. I know you all can't see it yet. It's just taking me a minute to get it to happen. So right now you should be seeing the
There we go.
Bandcamp page. All right. So Jim, I know this is the one thing I wanted to talk about too. So everybody else can see the Bandcamp page. That can be our background for a little while. They'll see our little videos up in the corner of the screen too.
Okay.
Um, so I know that besides your own bands, there's some other, history that we have, and one
Hmm.
of the elements of history is that one of the bands, that DNA, that I've been in, recorded a couple records with you, and
Yes.
then another band I was in, Crank. You were kind enough to let us use your space to get some practice time in before we did a recording with Richard Banks.
Yes.
So we've had a chance to spend some time down in Mole Hole Studio, and in fact, the background behind me here. Do you recognize that picture at all?
Yes, that's the first album cover, isn't it?
That's the album cover for The Whole Truth.
Okay. The whole. Okay. Yeah. The
Yeah,
compilation. All right.
which was
Yeah.
the compilation of the two records that I did with you, and I am going to choose at least one song from something out of that group of stuff, so that
Excellent.
we can
Yeah.
hear some of the good work that you did back those many years ago, and that was like in, I think, what, '94 or something like that when.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Um, and so I guess I was wanting to also then segue into, so I'm looking at your Bandcamp page and I'm like, you've got a few songs on there and that's great. But I mean, Jim, you've been recording for what, 25, 30 years?
Yeah. At least
And
that.
and I know you've recorded lots and lots of stuff.
Mhm.
So is what's on your Bandcamp page just a sampling of the most recent stuff, or is there some place where I could find other stuff too?
There's a Facebook page you can find other stuff too. Mohole on Facebook.
All right.
This stuff here is just mine. I'm working on a 10-song album, and these are the five that I finally let loose and hopefully won't screw with anymore. But it's
That's hard, is it not?
especially when you have your own studio. Yes, you got all
Yeah.
the time in the world, and yeah, and this is it's solo album, but it's got a lot of really really good local players on these songs that are friends and
Let me tell me which one you want to start with, and we can kind of look down at some of the
okay,
players
let's
are.
how we start with Feel Like a Fool.
All right, I'm going to open this up. All right, so like you said, there's some of the folks that are on here. There's several names that I've seen before, a couple names of people that I recognize here. Uh, so this was all part of what I'm going to guess was a longer session where you did multiple songs, or did you just get the group back together multiple times over the course of, a while?
This is basically done one thing at a time. I'd start out with me doing the rhythm guitar till I was satisfied with it, then I do the vocals. For about 6 years, Jimmy Beers, who you probably know is one of the finest drummers in Southern Illinois,
Yeah.
was my neighbor. So he just come on by and record when he got a chance. And I
Oh,
really like the way
nice.
he interprets my songs. He does a great job of that. And I
Nice.
just bring other people in when they had a chance. They're all working musicians, which I realize is better to ask working musicians to play on your stuff than people that are musicians that are not working. The working musicians want to play more. And
I
of
will
course,
say, yeah, I will say this, that the working musicians, uh, uh, regardless of that inherent talent level, their chops are strong, right? They know
yes,
because they've went through that crucible out live. They know what they need to do to get it done. So yeah,
exactly. On this band, Robert Russell, this song, Robert Russell, DB, Chris DiBiase, and Jimmy Beers are the Deciders, who you've probably heard of. They play around town.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Angie Fisher and Kendall Bell are local singers. They're members of the Cattails. and have beautiful harmonies.
Yeah,
And
really pretty backing vocals there. Yeah, really
yeah.
nice. Well, let's go ahead and hit it. And then what I would ask you to do while the song is playing, you don't necessarily have to mute, but if we keep our background noise to a minimum, it shouldn't interfere with the song at all.
Okay.
If there's noise, it'll kind of cut in and out with the song. I learned that the last time where I would be listening to a song and I would say something to Tony and then I'd be like, well, shit, I just ruined the cool part of his song because I was talking to him about how cool it was, right? So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and for the next 3 minutes and 51 seconds.
All
Okay.
right.
All right, here we go. This is Feel Like a Fool from Jim Foerster.
Because I feel like a fool. Cause every time I look at you, the way you shop it around, the time start dialing a one-horse town. Yet you seem so sincere when you whisper in a lover's ear, then impressed with your charm, softly fall into their arms. Now I feel like a fool. 'Cause every time I talk to you, the way you look in my eyes, and then you leave with some other guy, it leaves an ache in my heart. Even though we've been apart, watch the things that you do. Wonder why I still care for you. Well, you look so fine in that Memphis dress. I love to hold you tight, but it's hard to forget how many nights I felt unsure, how many times I felt like your fool when it comes closing time. And all your lovers are waiting in line, wondering if they're the one who's next to you when the morning comes. So yes, I feel like a fool. Most every time I think of you and how you shop it around, selling low in a discount town.
Nice.
Thanks.
The share right there. So one of the first things that strikes me about that, Jim, that I really dig is right off the bat, uh, you do something that's just a little different in your phrasing. Like you're phrasing at the well, I feel like a fool, and it goes basically in in threes. Like you have this like basically like a three line kind of call and response thing with the girls, and then it has a stop and does it again, and it's like right off the bat you take kind of what could have been just like a more standard a bluesy uh, relationship song and turn it a little bit, and I really dig that. So that was very cool.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah. So
I'm not a formally trained musician, so I'm kind of, I just play it the way I feel it, and that's how it came out. So
that is awesome. So, what stands out to you about that? I know you're obviously the principal writer, singer, engineer, and producer. It's important people know you're doing it all from the front end all the way through the production side in your studio. But sometimes something will stick out, like somebody's performance or somebody doing something that changed something for you while you're in the midst of doing it. Did that happen on this song? And if so, what was it?
not a whole lot. We had recorded this with Uncle Shifty, a cover band I was in, and I really liked Steve Bird, rest in peace. I liked his drumming did, and asked Jimmy if he could do something similar, and he pretty much did the exact same thing. I was kind of
Yeah,
floored, and
that's awesome.
so I just kind of like the way it feels. I was looking for a Memphis type of rock sound and R&B rock sound, and the singers, of course, Angie and Kendall. That just really added a lot to it that I didn't quite expect. I debated for a few weeks whether I wanted to put female singers on or not, and once I did, I was like, well, shit, that was a no-brainer,
Yeah, no,
And
that's when you're like, I'm going to put them on everything after
yes,
this. So
and I should say that I had been talking to Angie and Kendall about singing on another song, and Kendall says, "Can I sing on this one?" And she started singing the melody, and I'm like, yeah. It's like, the
that
melody
is
of one of my songs. Hell yes, you can sing.
that is awesome. That is really kind of cool to hear. So.
Yeah.
Uh, So I'm working right now. Hang on, give me a second. That I've got another tab open and it started to ding, and I'm like, as soon as I open, if I go back and share, we're gonna get dings in the middle of stuff. So I'm taking care of that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back over. We're gonna share now the next thing. So, but before I do, so I mentioned earlier that DNA Vibrators' first records we did over at Mohole,
Hmm.
and so the first song that I'm gonna choose off of this is it's going to be off of the very first thing that we recorded, and I think it actually may have been the first thing that we recorded in that session too, and
Ah,
it was a song called "God Made Us Funky."
I love this song.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, it is if you were just to listen to the lyrics and not know that it was about this comic book that this guy wrote named Evan Dorkin, his terrific comic artist, uh, and it is firmly tongue-in-cheek social commentary, and it's meant to be over the top and silly, but the message behind it is actually a pretty great message. Like it's really all about skewering everything that like American consumerism and all this other stuff. It just does it in such a great way that you can't help but smile along with him while his main comic book characters are destroying everything in sight, and they happen to be a block of cheese and a carton of milk, which is just as about as innocuous as you can get, which is what drew me to it. But I know you may or may not know this about me, Jim, but particularly when I was younger, I just couldn't sit still, and I was always clicking or tapping or whatever. There's a lot of
Okay.
musicians that are like that,
Yeah.
that they're always having to do something. And I had a job at Stevenson Arms, the old
Oh wow.
off-campus dormitory. I
Yeah.
was worked in the
Yeah.
kitchen, and I lived on Hayes Street, so it was a short walk. But in that short walk, I would click my teeth, and I would like click a rhythm out, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I started to click this rhythm out, and that's what started this song. And literally,
Oh, oh,
and
excellent.
isn't that stupid? But it's the truth, and
Hey.
it's just one of those things that, and I'm sure you can agree. Like sometimes a song will come to you, and it's literally done before you know it. Like
Yes.
you're like, oh, this is it. All I have to do now is just do it because I've already got it done. And this was one of those songs that literally started with me just clicking my teeth together. And before I was at work, I was like, I have to remember all the lyrics I just thought of, and I just scrawled them down as fast as I could, and it was a very short period of time after that that it turned into a song that I was able to say to our mutual buddy Dave Stecker, who's been the guitarist in this band with me for many, many years now. And I was like, "This is how it sounds," and he was just like, "Oh yeah, we'll do something with that." So
Yeah,
when you get Stecker's approval, you know it's got to be good. So
absolutely.
all right,
Right
yeah,
before
go.
you play, that's kind of the same thing with "Feel Like a Fool." That was written when I was on stage at Pizza King and looking out in
Yeah,
the audience and seeing something that was going on, and I came home after the gig and sat down, just spilled right out of me,
yeah.
and then just had to tighten it up after that. So
That's pretty awesome. You can tell it kind of feels real. So you can tell. So
oh,
that's pretty
good.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do the share screen again here.
All
Give me
right.
a second, and I should be good. All right, everybody, do you see the DNA page now?
I got it.
All right, so we're going to play "God Made Us Funky" by the DNA Vibrators. Here we go.
I'm a carton of hate. I'm a wedge of spite. I'm a carton of hate. I'm a wedge of spite. We're milk and cheese. We're milk and cheese. We both gone bad. We just ain't right. Our big ass laughs are too hardcore. You don't deserve any more. We're milk and cheese. Buy our records, please. Our aim's to sell. So go to hell. Fear us suckers, fear our truth. Mindless violence beyond reproof. Are we evil? So some claim. What society is to blame? Start a riot, lose control. We are gods of rock and roll. Give me beer, give me gin. We're liquored up, so let the mayhem begin. God made us funky. God made us funky. God made us funky. God made us funky. You should read the liner notes now. Read the liner notes. God made us cookie. No, wait, I mean, God made us funky. 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 God made us funky.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that brings back good memories.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
There's a couple of things. So there's one of the things I'll mention real quickly. So this is one of those things just for songwriters in general. Like if you're going to write a song that uses somebody else's intellectual property, it's really important to ask for permission. So I contacted Evan Dorkin before I decided to record this, and I was just like, "Hey, I've got this idea for a song. Here are the lyrics. Here's a kind of a jam box recording that I did at home, just so you can hear what it's going to sound like. And I hope that I could have your permission to use this. I'm not really copying any of your specific written work except for your catchphrase for your guys, which is God made us funky. But it's really more of an homage to your work, which is awesome." And he wrote back just very down to earth, and he was like, yeah, he goes, "This is great, no problem." He goes, "As long as you're not making money off of it and passing it off as yours, like
Yeah.
the creation of it." And I said, "I promise I won't make any money off of this." And so far, I've been true to my word. So, but but he was totally cool with it, which was very
Yeah.
nice because it's not always that way, right? There's some people that be
Right.
like, "No, you can't use that at all. Even under fair use doctrine, if you use it, we're going to try to shut you down." So anyway, so that's kind of what that was from. And what I remember though is uh, we actually this was it, in that recording that we did in your studio. Pretty much everything was almost everything was just one take. Like we
Yes.
went in there and we did it and we nailed it and was like, good enough. We can overdub the rest, right?
Yes.
Except for this song. This song we tried. There are two versions of it. I don't think they exist anymore unless you've kept them.
Ah,
But there were two versions that Tony played drums on, and he was our drummer. Um, and neither one of them panned out as good as we could hope. And in another band I was in, Crank, with Ralph and Scott and Dave, uh, we had practiced it a few times to play out as a Crank version of that song too. And so Ralph was in town, and we just invited him over to come and play, and he came in and we nailed it in one take with the drummer, and we are like,
ah,
so that's
oh,
the version that we're using on drums. In all
I
other
forgot about
respects,
that. Yeah.
Tony was playing the
Yeah.
drums. Ralph came in and killed it, and I have never let Tony live that down. No, we had to call in backup because he couldn't handle it. Which of course just a super talented drummer. He can
Yes.
handle anything we throw at him, but he
Yeah.
takes that with a grain of salt. So, but what happened next was even just more impressive. Ralph came in and did his part, and we're like, great, thanks, that was cool. Then he took off, and it was sometime later that afternoon. It was still early afternoon, but later that afternoon that Dave came over because
Hmm.
we had did all of the basic tracks first, and then he came in and then we did the other stuff. As long as the bass and drums were down, everything else was going to flow.
Right.
And so he came in, and I'm not going to embellish any part of this story. He doesn't like when I do that. He'll eventually see this, so I'm not going to embellish any parts. I'm just telling the absolute truth that he came in and we recorded a solo on one of Tony's versions,
Okay.
and it just didn't really flow. And then we recorded one solo on Ralph's version, and uh, it was great. Like it was as sick as you could get, and he was just like, "Is this okay?" And I just remember back in looking across the studio at you, going, "What is he talking about? This is just like genius." And we're just like going, picking our jaws up, and just going, "Yeah, that was good. Sure, it was okay, you know." And then he's like, "Wait a minute, let's do it again." And then the one that we recorded and left on the record was the one that he did afterwards, which was even
Yeah.
better. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, was it so good? Um, but that was the fond memory. I was smiling when I was like, I remember him going, we were just adamant, this is great. No, we don't need to change. He's like, I just want to do it one more time, and it was head and shoulders better. It had all the right weirdness to it, and
Yeah.
man, is he good at doing that stuff. All right, hey, so that was pretty fun. Let's go
Right.
back. Let's go back now. Uh, so just briefly, the song that you played uh, for
Yes.
us, "Feel Like a Fool," are you going to
Yes.
play that on the 18th?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. The song that I played, probably not going to play that one on the 18th, and it's not because I don't want to. It's
Okay.
Anthony, the God Made Us Funky. Anthony, who has been our one of the drummers. There's two drummers in the band right now, and they kind of are both doing different songs. And Anthony's injured his arm. He injured his hand,
I heard.
he's still
Yeah.
not 100%.
Really?
So we're not doing some of the songs that Anthony would be doing for
Oh,
us.
wow.
So
Okay.
unfortunately, I wanted to play that one just because it featured your good work and Dave's good work, but we
Yeah.
probably won't play it at the show.
Oh,
Now,
bummer.
I also wanted to mention that was done, like I said, almost 30 years ago, like 23 years ago
Ah,
now,
yeah. Wow. Wow.
and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it
Like
still does.
when I think about the time that we took, which was not very much time at all,
Yeah.
and the speed at which we went through the mix down and production component of it, which we really ran through it, and not because you wanted to, but I was pushing. Yeah, it's good enough. Let's go. Let's move the next thing. Let's go. And I know you were probably like, dude, slow down. And I was just like, I'm good. Let's go. And I have no excuse for that other than I was impatient and ADHD, and I just had to get it done.
Sure. Yeah.
But
I love it. Want to mention we recorded that to a half-inch 8-track tape.
yes,
It was not digital; it was tape at the time, and had to
and
mix it down and
and
live at some
and
point. But
because then we would re-record over stuff as it was on the mix down, so
yes,
get extra
especially
tracks in there.
vocals and extra
Yeah.
guitar tracks while we were mixing down. Yeah.
So we were able to get the most out of it. Of course, the drawback to that is that it's live, so if you screw it up, you screw it up.
Yep.
Uh, so so we just did it and it worked, and that was great. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go back, Jim. I'm gonna share back to your page,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna choose one if that's okay with you.
Choose one. Go ahead.
All right,
I'm
so
not always the best judge of my songs.
let's make sure that you see the shared page again.
I do.
All right. So first off, um, I really enjoyed all of them, and I'm hoping that you're going to play all
Excellent.
five of these and whatever else you're going to play on the 18th because I'm looking
Yes,
forward
I
to
will.
hearing them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with "Ain't No Answer." I think.
People like that one a lot.
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to open it up, and then right off the bat, you'll see that there are a couple of extra folks on there. And the ones that jump out at me are, of course, Dakota on pedal steel
Yes.
and Alex on accordion. That's awesome. That just adds
Yeah.
depth and just a certain kind of wistfulness that the accordion brings to it. And I know the people who are familiar with only hearing it like in a polka or in a German band would go, accordion doesn't have wistfulness. It's like, no, it absolutely does. It's just not used that way for a polka. And even then it is, because a polka and a waltz are just this close, and you
Yeah.
can hear that kind of sweetness underneath of it, and it definitely comes through. So, and you have Angie, your girls are on the vocals on this too, yes?
Yes. And Mickey
Nice.
Soltis is used to play in the Dorians, now plays with Uncle Pecos, local
Oh,
honky
okay.
tonk band, and at
Nice.
one time was the Illinois State champ fiddle player. And just on a lark, he just kind of went on for a ride and entered at the last minute and won the Illinois State championship.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's,
All right, well, we're going to play this song without further ado here. So this is Ain't No Answer by Jim Foerster.
Well, I've been boozy all week trying to fill this hole. Runs from my heart deep down into my soul. It ain't no answer, baby. Lord, don't I know it's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go. I'll break another seal for my next drink. Try not to feel, but I begin to think it ain't no answer, baby. Lord, don't I know cussing all day, sweating in the sun, working hard to forget you. Still ain't done, it ain't no answer, baby. Lord, don't I know it's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go. Been down to Birmingham to breathe some different air. Get lost in the streets, leave your memory there. Ain't no answer, baby. Lord, don't I know it's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go. Train whistle cries, I hear that heartache sound. Wish I was leaving, just shake loose of this town. Ain't no answer, baby. Lord, don't I know it's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go. It's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go. It's gonna break my heart, but I just gotta let you go.
Excellent.
All right.
Very nice. So,
Thanks.
one of the things that I noticed right off the bat, obviously, when you have a pedal steel in your song, you very well, it's you're not going to be too far away from, Texas cowboy kind of music, and that's great.
Yeah.
But that's not what made me feel like that. What made me feel like that was there's two bits of percussion in the background. You've got somebody doing one of those like metal bead shakers, right?
Yeah. No, I've got yes. On the speaker right, yes, that's going on a little bit.
Yeah,
On the
and then
left is maraca and a egg.
yeah, I would say it almost sounds like it's the egg that I'm hearing, but that almost sounded like something like a rod on a strap going shh, shh.
Ah,
But that's
okay.
the egg. I'm sure of that
Yes.
now that you mentioned that. That gives it that lilt, right?
Yeah.
Of that like horse in town or something. That's what
Yes.
makes that evokes that image for me is that. But of course, pedal steel doesn't hurt, right? So
No, it doesn't.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that was really pretty terrific. Just a really nice tune all the way around there, Jim.
Thank
And
you.
so yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that, and then the other ones too. And I know we're pushing our time, but let's get one more. I'm going to switch back over to my
Yeah.
page.
Let's hear some
Go
more of that stuff.
share screen again, and all right, so you can see it. Is there something in particular that you want to choose? If not, I'll just choose something else.
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right.
They're
Okay.
all good.
All
So,
right. So this one is off of the second
all right.
recording that we did, and we will be playing several things off of this on the show on the 18th. And I think the one that's calling out to me the most, although I love playing out live and it's super fun. All I want for Christmas is a whole lot of cash.
That's great.
Uh, but I think the one that I want to play is "Just Give Me a Drink," just because it has the virtue of being short. so we'll so we'll do that.
Thought you were
So
going to play Fistful of Cleveland.
oh, I dig that too. That's our lead off song. That'll be the first thing that we do. Uh,
Excellent.
And if I remember right, again in the studio, it was the first one we did too, on that
Okay.
particular recording session. Uh, well, shoot, now I kind of want to do it. Nope, here we go. All right. Just Give Me a Drink
Yeah.
by the DNA Vibrators.
I don't wanna hear about how many beers you drank last night. Just give me a drink. I don't care if it's bad. I guess I'm just like my dad, and now it's time to fight. Just give me a drink. So I kicked your ass, took a broken glass, and made you take a bite. Just give me a drink. Something to wet my tongue. Something alone so I can feel among. Something to kill me slow. Another drink before oh, I'm not in control, yeah, I achieved my goal, cause I think I gone blind. What am I looking for? Most of the time it's the door, and most of the time I find the floor instead. Sometimes I wish I were dead, but that's a little too kind. Something to wet my tongue. Something alone so I can feel among. Something to kill me slow. 'Cause that's the way I want to. Something that's like a sin. 'Cause it hurts to feel again. Something to kill me slow. I'm still scared to go.
All right.
Man,
That's
that was excellent.
little stick of dynamite thrown out there. And yeah, featuring Dave Stecker on guitar, Tony Imony on drums, and me on the bass. And I did the rhythm track and then the vocals on that. That was super fun to do. That was another one of those
Yes.
songs that just kind of came out just like that, and it was birthed out of a story. It's a song about my brother, my older brother, kind of rough and tumble guy. I don't want to hear about how many beers you drank last night, because his story was better. He didn't need to hear about yours. That's kind of how it was. Uh, yeah, that was super fun to do in the studio too. And again, just like the previous recording we did with you, man, we went in there, knocked it out pretty much one take at a time, and within a fairly short order, we had it done. But I do want to point this out so that people hear it and go, "Hey, that sounds a little muddier." That was all me because I remember our time in the studio. It was very limited. I mean, very limited. Like I
Yes.
paid for it with an AKG microphone and something else, and I was like, "Dude, this is all I got. So we're just gonna get this. We're gonna do this, and I'm just gonna get on here and I'm gonna mess with a bunch of the knobs." And you're just like, "Whatever, if you want to, go ahead." And you can tell because it sounds as muddy as I could make it
Yeah, it was
without.
a I think it was a D112 and a hand truck is what
I
on that
believe so.
recording.
Yes. That is great. Oh man, that's funny, but absolutely true. And it was worth every bit of that trade. I want to tell you that. I have loved listening to that.
Well, I still use
And
both, and so
well, there you go. Good deal. I guess it's worked out for both of us. That's awesome, dude. Okay, so I'll just remind people real quickly here. We have at the Hangar 9 in Carbondale, Illinois on November 18th. Doors at 9 o'clock. I believe the show will probably kick off right around 10 or so. And Jim will be playing. And then if there is a bridge between what Jim does and what I do, Children of the Rat Temple are it. We couldn't ask, I think, for a better bridge to do that because they have some stuff that is kind of ethereal and slower. They have some stuff that is kind of electronica and groovier, and some stuff that is kind of dissonant in places, and it's all part of what they kind of create these fairly lengthy soundscapes, which is pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing them too. And then DNA will close out the evening. So three eclectic, interesting, different sounds for your ears. So please come out and join us all at the Hangar on the 18th. It should be lots of fun.
Yeah, should be a blast. And again,
All
that's a
right.
Friday night, and I think the event page may still say 6 p.m., but it actually is 9 p.m. for
I,
start and 10.
I I talked to him about that too. He's like, Facebook is doing that. I'm not doing it, and
Yeah,
I did change it back to 9 p.m.
good.
So I think it is good. But just so everybody hears, at 9 p.m. is when you'll want to be there, so you can get yourself lubricated, so that you can have a great time for the whole evening, and it should be, I think, just a super fun show. So
Yeah, just tell the bartenders, just give me a drink, and
yeah, that's
we
right. Just yell it like I do. I'm going to do that to see how many I get on stage. Hopefully a lot. So,
go.
Jim, it was wonderful talking to you, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you here real shortly. And hopefully we'll do another one of these with Children of the Rat Temple. They've got a lot of things on their plate, so they don't know if they're going to be able to get one in. But if they do, we'll do something like this again with them. So everybody, thanks a lot. I hope to
Thank
see
you.
you at the Hangar on Friday, November 18th.
All
See ya.
right.
Bye.
Bye.